I'm very glad to be here. So I'm going to talk today about trust, cooperation, and productivity. I want to say that two minds are better than one, but only under certain conditions. Trust and cooperation are aspects of human behavior necessary for almost any type of collective activity. We trust and cooperate when we make love, with our friends, but we also do it when it comes to governance, production line, and policy making. The problem with trust is that trust is dangerous. Trust me. But why? Why do I say that? Why do I think that trust is dangerous? Trust is a necessary precondition for cooperation. We can see it as answering the question, can I trust you to do this thing? We can see trust as something like that, it allows me to assess the degree of risk that I may face when I get into some kind of interaction with somebody else. That may be a good possibility for cooperation. This, for example, can explain why in some cultures we, and I say we because in Greece we do that, we use family relations to solve the problem of trust. Trust is a very risky endeavor, and that's why individuals may take fewer and fewer risks. Of course, the problem is that we are not as rational as we think that we are, and that's why most of the times we trust the wrong people. So, let's see trust as the path to good cooperation. Extensive research has shown that we cooperate a lot, and we do that because we are social creatures, and we are dependent to other people. But we humans do not just cooperate. We coordinate our cooperative actions, and we have extremely good ideas, or at least we think that we do have good ideas, about how cooperation should be done. For me, I started thinking about all this trust and cooperation when I started my career as an academic, and I found out that it's so much better when I cooperate with others. Of course, somebody may ask, isn't that an obvious fact? Well, I don't think so. I wonder, does always cooperation, even bad cooperation, lead to better results? So research has shown that no cooperation, over cooperation or bad cooperation, it's much worse than no cooperation at all. And why is that? Because we think that cooperation is a good thing, and we keep on doing it, and we don't stop for a while to ask some critical questions, to get out of bad relationships, for example, or to stop really bad projects. So we do more of it. We spend more time on it. I guess that you have all been in a situation like this, where you are in an extremely boring meeting. So imagine what happens when this happens to your erotic relationship. So if on a business level, bad cooperation has shown negative results, what happens in a society, in a whole society, that where people do not trust each other and they do not cooperate a lot, or they do not know how to cooperate a lot? So what happens to a group of people that there is not enough trust that would lead to good cooperation? So we do know that lack of trust is killing the economy. That's the first thing. The lower a society scores in trust, the higher the corruption levels are. I guess that you are looking for Greece. We score 94, together with countries like Colombia and Mongolia. That's not very good. So the main question becomes, how can we make it to trust and cooperate more and better? As I said before, from my personal experience at the university, in my work, the best outcomes come when my colleagues and I cooperate. At the same time, it can be said that universities are the temples of specialization. Each one of us is extremely specialized in some very distinct area of knowledge. And sometimes we get so specialized that we don't even want to know somebody else's specialty. We just want to take what he has to give us, and that's fine for us. To give you an idea about that, I'm a behavioral economist, and I'm obviously specialized in cooperation, or at least that's what I say so. And I share an office with an anthropologist who is specialized in Latin American cultures, and specifically in Guatemala, and a psychologist who is specialized in nonlinear statistics, whatever that means. At the same time, we cooperate and we work together, and we are interdependent to each other. So this extreme specialization is known as division of labor. During the Industrial Revolution, Adam Smith talked about this efficiency-oriented account. And some years later, the famous sociologist Emile Durkheim argued that division of labor is also good for social solidarity, for social cohesion. It connects people. It makes people to be more interdependent to each other. So I started together with my colleagues to think of how we can experiment with this idea of division of labor, how we can get it in the lab. And we wanted to see what would be the implications of division of labor for cooperation. Our questions were, does division of labor lead to greater productivity? And also, does division of labor lead to higher social solidarity? So we designed an experiment. That's what we are doing. And to measure the division of labor, we used the degree of synchrony between participants' hand movements and heart rate profiles. So the tool on your left is an accelerometer, and it measures how we move our hands on the three-dimensional space. And the polar on your right measures our pulse, heart pulse. And we also used participants' self-reports to find out how much fun and cooperative they were. So what we did is that we gave to participants Legos, to pairs of individuals Legos, and we asked them to build cars, and they built more than 200 cars. What we told them is that they should build cars that they are functional, so we can play with them afterwards, and beautiful. We separated them in two conditions. In one condition, which we call the hierarchical condition, one participant was the boss, and the other was the assistant. The boss was the one that could make all the decisions during the building task, whereas the assistant could only follow orders. In the other condition, which we call the egalitarian condition, so the equality condition, both participants were equal in terms of decision-making. They could both say their opinion about how the car should look like and what bricks they should use and everything. When the task was finished, we also asked the participants, how well they cooperated. So we asked them, how good do you think that your cooperation was? And we also asked them how big fun they had during the building of the car. The best part of the study, when you play with Lego, is that you yourself get to play with them. So in the end of each session, we took the cars, we collected them, and we started playing around to see how functional they are. And we also took a ramp, and we ran the cars down and measured the distance that they can travel. So how good the product is. And we also found some other people that they didn't know what we were doing, and we asked them to rate the cars aesthetically. So we told them, how beautiful do you think that these cars are in a scale from 1 to 5? Now, what happens when you compare these two conditions? First of all, we found that in the egalitarian condition, the division of labor is much higher. You can see on your left up, on the left up figure, that when you let people free to do what they want to do, when you don't tell them who is going to do what, they divide the labor more, and that means that they get more interdependent. Also, we found that the more the division of labor between the participants during the joint construction, the better the product performance is. You can see that on the left down. So both aesthetically and functionally, the cars were better when the division of labor was really high. And that means mainly in the egalitarian condition. We also found that higher division of labor is associated with better fun and cooperation. So the higher there was the division of labor, the participants really liked the interaction more. And they say that, yes, we were very cooperative and we had great fun. The problem is that today, our economy is not an assembly line-only economy. Well, I don't know if that's a problem, but anyway, that's the case. Researchers like Dan Ariely have argued that our economy is based on meaning and knowledge. Sharing knowledge and sharing information. So having that in mind, we were thinking of how we can bring knowledge, meaning, and information in our experiment and somehow test them. In order to do that, we ran two more closely related studies that I will present you now. So in the one of the studies, we gave to participants wooden building blocks like this. And again, we separated them in two conditions. In the one condition, which we call the transparent condition, we showed them the final state of what they were supposed to build. They were all following instructions, and we just showed them this castle. In the other condition, which we call it the opaque condition, they were following exactly the same instructions, but we just didn't show them the end state of what they are doing all together. Everything else was equal in the experiment. After the building task, participants, in order to measure cooperation, participants played an economic game, which we call it the public goods game. In this economic game, we have some money. Let's say that we have 10 euros, and we are like some people. And we get to decide how much of this money to invest and how much to keep for ourselves. We invest the money in a common project, in a common pool. And the money that we invest gets multiplied and then divided equally again to all players. So the players, if the players invest all their money, they get in the end more money as a group. But of course there is a problem of bad people, which in scientific terms we call them free riders. And they may keep all the money for themselves and also take an advantage of the common project money, of the pool money. So all players they have a dilemma, actually. If I invest my money and the other player defects and he doesn't invest, I may end up have much less money than I had in the beginning of the game. But if both or all players invest, we will earn more from the cooperation as a group. So in the experiment, we found that participants that can see the end state of what they are doing together, they are highly more cooperative. So participants that they trust the other, that the other works towards the same goal as they do, they are highly more cooperative. In the other experiment, we took this into pieces and we asked participants to assemble it back. Do you know what this is? The ones that know? No, only few. Yeah, I was expecting that. So this is an apple peeler. It peels apples. It looks weird. It looks like a torture machine. Most participants thought that it's a torture machine. So the idea here is extremely simple. We give to participants, we can separate the participants in two groups. In the first group, we didn't tell them what this is. Okay? We just told them, build it, please. Assemble it. In the other condition, we told them, this is an apple peeler, and build it. So they knew the function of what they are going to build together. And again, in the end, we told them, we asked them to play the same economic game as in the previous study, the public goods game. But this time we changed it a little bit. We asked from participants to play both against their group mate and another unknown person, somebody out of the group that they didn't know, they haven't met. What we found is that when you know what you are doing, when you know the function of the good you are producing, you are becoming highly more cooperative, both with your group mate, but also with an unknown person. You're just becoming better. You share more. So to summarize, dividing the labor makes us more satisfied with our cooperation and more productive. But as I said before, we need something more. So seeing the end game of what we are conjointly doing makes us more reliable to others and more cooperative. But also by knowing how the fruit of our collaboration looks like, we are more willing to overcome selfishness and share with the others. To understand that better, let me go back a little bit to the Lego experiment, and let's think about it. We call the one condition egalitarian, not only because people were equal in terms of decisions, but also because they were making decisions equally, and they knew how their final product should look like, because they were equal. They discussed about it. So they said, okay, let's build a car like this. So in the egalitarian condition, we have two people that share the same meaning, the same knowledge. Therefore, in the egalitarian condition, we have a shared goal, common knowledge, and divided labor. So two minds are better than one. But when? How in a world full of bad people and egoists, we can enhance cooperation and productivity? We show that by dividing our labor, we become more interdependent to each other. And by knowing the function of what we are doing and how this product looks like, we can have more fun, we can become more cooperative, and build trust. Trust is indeed dangerous, but there is a reward: good cooperation. Maybe we should start talking more as individuals, but also as a society, about the things we value and the means and the ends, the process and the goal. We all know that they are there, but I believe that we should clarify them, and by doing this, to build value, trust, and cooperation. So let's find what connects us. Thank you.